Hello ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Lopazzo back with another drawing video. Today we're going to be making a vase or vase of flowers. So I've got four really nice examples here to show you. Here's this a very pretty vase. Very pretty vase. So this project actually has two parts, and you can see the flowers. And we used watercolors. We'll talk about that in a second. So this project has two different parts. First part is we're going to make the vase. And we're going to make the vase symmetrical, which means it's going to be the same on both sides. Symmetrical. The same on both sides. That one's really pretty. And then we're going to do the flowers and the stems. Isn't that nice? Okay. One more. I'll show you. Nice big yellow and orange vase. And lots of flowers. So the first thing we need to do is we need to make our vase. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make a tracer. They didn't just draw the vase on a piece of paper. This is really hard, regardless of what grade you're in, to make a vase that's exactly the same on both sides. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a tracer. If you remember in pre-K, if you went to pre-K here, we made a fish bowl, and we put a fish inside with the seaweed in the house and the bubbles. And we used a tracer. So a tracer is something that you put down on your piece of paper, and your pencil touches the outside edge of it. It has to be touching the tracer, but it's also touching the paper underneath. And you trace all the way around, so when you take it off, you have this exact shape on your paper. So we're going to use a tracer to make our vase. It's exactly the same on both sides. Now, before you make your vase, we need to figure out how big your paper is going to be that you're using for your project. Okay? So if you're using a piece of paper the size of these, right, if you're using a large piece of paper like this is 12 inches by 18 inches or something big, then your vase is going to be made using just a piece of copy paper, right from your printer. This is 8.5 by 11. Could you see it's a lot smaller than this big piece of paper? Say, well, Mr. Lopazzo, I'm not using a big piece of paper like that to make my vase of flowers. I'm using a small piece of paper, right? I'm going to be using this size paper to do my vase and my flowers. Well, then you would want to take another piece of this paper and chop it in half. Cut it right down the middle so that you have a smaller piece of paper for your vase. So if whatever size the paper is that you're using for your vase of flowers, you're going to need a smaller piece of paper to make your vase. Because the vase is only about half the size of our paper, right? The bottom half is a vase and a table. The top half is all your flowers. So you're going to need a smaller piece of paper for your tracer. So I'm not going to make two tracers. I'm just going to make one. I'll use the big piece of paper right now, but it's the same process if you're using the little piece of paper for your vase, okay? So again, whatever size your paper is that you're doing your whole project on, the paper for your vase tracer needs to be smaller. So you're going to take your piece of paper, you're going to fold it in half so that it looks kind of like a book. You're going to do this flat on the table. I don't have a table. I'm going to do it on my big belly. So you're going to fold the paper in half. So it kind of looks like a book. There's the folded side. There's the open side. So you're going to take a pencil. Now I'm using a marker, but I'm only doing that so you can see it. You're going to use a pencil in case you want to make changes. Okay? So on the folded side, that's the side that we can't open. See, that's folded closed. This is the open side. On the folded side, I'm going to draw a little line almost at the top of my paper, and I'm going to draw a line somewhere around the middle at the bottom of my paper. So on the top, on the fold, and the bottom. Folded side, little line, somewhere on the bottom. Then you're going to draw your vase. Now you're only going to draw half your vase. I'll use this tracer so I don't get marker on my shirt. Right. So you are going to, there we go. You're only going to draw half your vase. I can't do it that way. So you're just going to come, and your vase can be whatever shape you want. If you see all these examples I have, every one of those vases are a little bit different. A lot of times the bigger part is on the bottom and the smaller part is on the top. So what I'm going to do, and you don't have to copy my vase, I'm going to go out and then curve in and then go back out again and then come back in. So you can see I only drew half of a vase. I started on my line at the top and I went over. You have to go over a little bit because otherwise you will not have an opening for your flowers to go in. So we do have to kind of go over first and then down however you want and go to your line at the bottom. So we use the line at the top and the line at the bottom. Then you are going to take a pair of scissors, like my fancy new scissors, they're brand new. Fancy. And I'm going to cut my vase. Now, I'm going to be cutting both pieces of paper at the same time. So I'm going to cut right on my pencil line. Right on my pencil line. So when I open my vase, it's perfectly symmetrical. It's exactly the same on both sides because I cut both pieces of paper at the same time. It makes sense. Now, if you open your vase and you go, I don't know if I like it. Maybe it's a little wide. It's a little. You can't make it bigger, but you can make it smaller. If you want to make it smaller, you just close it back up again and just trim the parts you don't like, but you got to make sure you close it first. And then when you open it up, it'll be a little different, a little smaller. So once you have your tracer, you're going to put it on your, now, of course, I have a big giant piece of paper here. And notice my vase, my vase, not my vase, my paper. My paper's straight up and down, okay? My paper's up and down, vertical, up and down. So you're going to take your piece of paper, your vase, and you're going to put it on your piece of paper. Now, I guess I can just use this right here. Right, so if this is my white piece of paper, you're going to put your vase right about there. Not touching the bottom, but kind of close to the bottom, but in the middle, left to right. So you want the same amount of space on each side. Put your vase right in the middle, but not touching the bottom. You can see where all these vases, they have a little bit of paper left on the bottom, just a little bit. So I'm going to draw my vase on here. Of course, you have a tracer. I'll try to sort of make the same vase I had. Now, mine's not going to be symmetrical because I didn't make a tracer. Oh, well. Oof. My vase is a little lopsided. That's better. So you can see I got a little space on this side, a little space on this side, and I have a little bit of paper on the bottom. So you can see that my vase is about half or a little bit less than half of the rest of my paper because I need space at the top to make my flowers. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to make our flowers. Now, if you have watercolors, we use watercolors for these flowers. So if you have watercolors, we're going to use those. If you don't have watercolors, you could use markers for this project. It's not going to look exactly like these, but you could use markers and crayons. We use crayon for the vase, and then we use watercolor. I'll show you how to make them with watercolors, and then I'll explain how you could do it with markers. So with our brush, now if you have more than one brush, see I've got two different brushes here. And one's a little pointier at the top. This one's a little pointier. And this one's a little fuzzier. If you have more than one brush, then I would pick the one that's a little bit fuzzier. So I'm actually going to use this one. If you only have a pointy brush, that's fine. You can use it. So let me show you how we're going to do this. Our flowers are going to go up here. First I'll show you how to make the flower, then I'll show you where we're going to put them, and I'll just kind of draw them on the board. So I've got my cup of water. Not too much. I have my watercolors. And here's a little trick. Sometimes when you first start with watercolors, as you know, they're very dry, right? And if you just wet your brush and put it in there, your colors aren't that bright. But you can see I put a little bit of water. Well, it's really hard to see. I put a couple drops of water in my purple, in my red, and in my blue-green. That's my blue-green. And I dripped a couple drips of water in there, and I kind of let them soak for a little while. Because once they soak, they come out really bright right away. So I'll just take my little piece of paper right here. And I'm going to show you how we did these. Now, of course, when you do this, you're going to be doing it flat. I can't really do it flat because then you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So I'll try to hold it up a little bit. You're going to be taking your brush, and instead of painting back and forth like we would normally do, we're actually going to poke up and down. We're going to poke. And all those little pokes that you're going to make, all those little dots, need to touch each other. So let me see. Let me show you. Actually, this is a good one to show you. You can see where they just, like here, they just did some pokes around the outside and then poked in the middle so that they all connected. Now, the black is something different, okay? We'll talk about the black in a second. But right now, we're just doing the colors. And if you look at this pretty blue one right here, all they did was go like this. They poked up and down, and all of their dots connected. If your dots don't connect like this one here, then you're going to get something that doesn't really look too much like a flower. It just looks like a bunch of dots that don't touch each other. But when the dots touch each other, like this red one, you can see this is a big one. So they started in the middle and they poked up and down, and you can see where their brush just poked. So the whole time you're just doing this. Don't splash though. You'll get it all over yourself. So you just poke up and down. And if you do just a couple little pokes, you get a little tiny flower that like a little purple one. And if you do lots of pokes and go around and around and get bigger and bigger, you'll get something big like the red one. Now, why do we poke up and down? Why don't we just take our brush and go like a circle? Well, then you end up with a round ball, like a beach ball. And I don't think beach balls don't have stems. We don't put them in vases. So we want to poke up and down because it makes the outside of our flower fuzzy. Looks more like a flower than just a big circle. So we're not doing this. We're going pokey, pokey, artichoke. Okay? So I'll just show you how to do one, even though it'd be kind of tricky because I hope it doesn't drip. So I'm going to wet my brush. Anytime you're doing watercolor, you got to wet your brush first. Here's my wet brush. Right, and then I will get a little bit of red. Oh, my red's already had water soaking in it, so it's really red. So if this was the top of your paper up here, you just take your brush. I'll see if I can do this like this. Go. See, if they don't connect, it doesn't look too much like a flower, see? But if I keep connecting them together, very softly, you don't need to jam it down. Very, very softly. And even though my brush isn't very big, see? It makes fuzzy outside edges, and they don't have to be perfectly round. Not all flowers are round. See that? Fuzzy, fuzzy flower. So now what I'll do, I'll just draw some flowers on the board. So you've got your paper, you've got your tracer. So when we put our tracer down here, like I explained with the fishbowl, once you put your tracer, you take your pencil and you hold it down, you trace all the way around your vase, and when you take it off, you will have a vase. And then some people like to take this and then color it and then just use it for something else. You can make your own little paper vase, color it. But we're just using that for the tracer. Once you trace your vase, you've got a vase right there. Okay? Once you've got your vase traced, then we'll just do a little bit of a line on this side, that side, kind of in the middle somewhere. And now it looks like our vase is sitting on our table. Okay? Once we've got our vase on there, Now, we'll talk a little bit about the vase. We'll do like a little shadow and a little reflection and stuff. So we're going to do some flowers up here. So you take your brush, you do the hokey pokey, you pokey pokey pokey, right? So yeah, I'll do a flower there, poke, poke, poke up and down, and maybe one over here, and maybe one over here. Maybe I'll do a little guy. You can even do them on the side. Maybe one over here. Now, you probably don't want your flowers to touch each other. Because if they touch each other, the paint will, we call it bleeding. The paint will bleed and your flowers will all mix up and kind of make a big mess. So they can be close together, but we probably don't want them to touch. And you can make as many as you want. This one over here, I don't even know, they might have 30 flowers on that thing. If you make them bigger, you're probably not going to fit as many. So right now, you're just making the floating flowers. There's no stems. They're just floating flowers. All different colors, whatever colors you want. Some people use lots of different colors. Some people just want to use 2 or 3 colors. Completely up to you. So we've got a vase traced in pencil. We've got a table drawn in pencil. And we've got some floating flowers. Now, the only place you don't want to put a flower is right there, because that's where our stems are going to go. Every flower gets a stem. He can't get any water up to his flower, whether it's in the ground or in a vase. The stems are kind of like a straw. The water goes up the stem and keeps the flower alive. So we don't want to put any flowers right on top of the vase. I have one kind of close here, but you can see there's a little bit of space there. So if you're going to leave some space, it's going to be right above your vase. Okay? So once you make your flowers, they're going to be wet. It's watercolor. They're going to be wet. We're going to leave those alone. We're not going to touch those. We're going to leave them, let them dry probably one day, or at least a few hours. I would say one day, maybe wait till the next day. While those are drying, we can work on our vase a little bit, because we've traced our vase in pencil, and we put the table on each side. Now, if you want to trace this, we traced it with a black Sharpie. We traced it with a marker. You can do that if you want, but you don't have to. So what we did was we took 2 colors and we blended those together. So we took 2 different crayons. This is yellow and orange. That one's also yellow and orange. This one's blue and green, and that one's blue and green. But you can take any 2 colors and mix them together. Purple and pink looks nice together. Yellow and green looks nice. Any colors that are close together on what we call the color wheel. Right, so when you pick colors that are close together, yellow and green look nice mixed together. Blue and green, blue and violet, or blue and purple. Red and violet, red and orange, orange and yellow. So those colors will look good mixed together. And you're going to take 2 colors and you're going to color in your vase. Now, you'll notice that some of these have a little white spot on. And that's called a reflection, right? If we want to make our vase look shiny, then sometimes when the light comes down and hits something shiny, the light bounces off and leaves like a big white spot. It's like a really bright reflection. You might see them like even on a window, where you notice that there's a white shiny spot in a window. So we want to make our vase look nice and shiny. So what we're going to do is either on this side of the vase or this side of the vase, we're going to draw a reflection. Now, reflections can be rectangles like this one, or they can be ovals like this one, or they can be circles. If this one has a very small one, you probably can't even see that. So when we color our vase, we're going to leave that reflection white. We're not going to color that spot. We're going to leave that white right there. And then you can blend your 2 colors every place else. Now, if the reflection's shining on this side and the sun is shining on this side, we're going to have something over here where it's a little dark. That's called the shadow. So if your reflection's on this side, your shadow will be on this side. So when we color our table, you can color your table any color you want. This person did a brown table to make it kind of look like it's wood. They did kind of like a gold colored table. You can make your table whatever color you want. So let's just say I'm going to make a brown table and I color my whole table brown here, underneath, around here. Then I'm going to color this shadow in really, really dark. You can even put brown and then put a teeny bit of black crayon on there. Or you can just color right there a lot darker with the brown crayon. scrub it really hard for the shadow, and then the table will be a little bit lighter because shadows are where there's no light. If I have light shining on this side and it's bouncing off of here, then behind my vase is going to be a shadow. If I put my hand up by the board, you can see right there, there's no light shining. It's hitting my hand and it's stopping. There's no light right there. It's creating a shadow. See that? So we want that to be our shadow. So if your reflection's over here, your shadow has to be on the opposite side. It's the law. So you'll color in your vase with crayon, 2 colors mixed together, blend. And then we're going to color our table with just 1 color. We're going to scrub really hard where the shadow is. And then the next day when your flowers are nice and dry, you're going to get yourself a green marker. Do I have a green marker? I must have a green marker. Bam. So we need to make our stems. Now stems are usually pretty straight. So this one, if I want to draw a stem from this flower into the vase, every flower has to have a stem. I'm just going to go boop right in there. And then I'll take this one and go boop. And this one will just go straight in. That's easy. Well, the ones on the side, they're kind of flowers that are like drooping a little bit. Drooping a little bit. And you can see it right on this one. Right? You can see where the flowers are kind of, and sometimes that happens. So if you have a flower on the side, you're going to make your stem kind of curve and go in the top. Because we only have an opening in the top of our vase, otherwise the water would pour out. They said, well, Mr. Opazzo, how am I supposed to do this one? Am I supposed to go down and go wee? Well, no, we're not going to do that because stems aren't going to curve around. The stems, we're going to put our stems behind our other flowers. We can't see through that flower, but we're going to pretend like the flower is in back of it. Right? If I take my hand like this and put my other hand in back of it, you can't see my hand back here because this hand's in front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make my stem go straight down. I'm going to stop at this flower. I'm going to hop over it, and I'm going to continue right into my vase. This one, I'm going to go down, stop when I hit this flower, hop over, continue into the vase. So you are not going to draw in front of these beautiful flowers. You're going to draw in back of them. That one I could probably make go straight in. This one's going to go down, stop when I touch that one, hop over, continue in. This one, I'm going to squeak between those two, stop, hop over, boop. And so if I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, if I have 11 flowers, then I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stems. So if you have 8 flowers, you need 8 stems. If you have 16 flowers, you need 16 stems. They should all be going right into the vase so they can get water and keep your flowers alive. Now you'll notice some of these flowers, a lot of these flowers, have little black spots in the middle. So what we did once the flowers were dry, we took a black marker, Crayola, or we used a Sharpie. And then what they did was, some people did on some of the flowers, and you can make it an oval like that. You know, it's not like a perfect circle. You can make a little circle in there. Some people like to just do, maybe just your yellow flowers will have black spots in the middle. Maybe just your purple flowers. Or you can do them on all the flowers. You don't want to make them too big because then we're going to hide all our beautiful colors from our flowers. Big ones, small ones, circles, ovals, whatever you want to do. If you like the way my examples look, then you can put this black spots in there. But you don't want to do that until like the next day. You want your watercolors to be totally dry. Okay? Totally dry. Now once you're done with that, some of these, you'll notice, have little thorns. See the little brown thorns? Those are like on roses and rose bushes and some other flowers. They have thorns. So maybe you want some of your stems to have thorns. And thorns are just simply triangles. They're teeny tiny little triangles. They're not big giant triangles like pyramids. They're teeny tiny little tiny pointy triangles. And that's why we can prick our fingers on them because they're very, very sharp. And if we touch them, you're going to get a little poke. So So maybe you can space them out. I don't think you want 57 thorns on each stem. That might take you forever. So just teeny tiny little triangles. That's all they are. They're pointy on the end, and the wide part touches the stem. You can do a lot of thorns are brown, some thorns are green. You can do whatever color you want for your thorns. Okay? And really, we're not going to do anything for the wall because we're going to leave that white so we can see them really good. And what you end up with is a beautiful vase of flowers. Now, you can do a design on your vase. Actually, those 3 vases are just 2 colors mixed together. This person did like a little ziggy-zaggy lines. See that? They did a wavy line. So you can do a design on there and make your vase colorful, and then leave a little white reflection on one side, a shadow on the other. This is a brown table where they did it darker, you can see. See that? Now, if you don't have watercolors, you can use a marker and still just pokey up and down. It might take you a little bit longer to make the flowers because a lot of markers are very pointy, and you want all those little pokies to touch each other. Then you'll end up with a fuzzy flower. So you can do it that way too, okay? Make sure when you're done. Now this project, of course, with our videos, usually we draw it the first week, and then we color it in the second week, and then you will send me your picture on Seesaw so I can check it out. Definitely want to see these. These always come out really nice. But if it takes you more than 2 art classes, that's okay. That's okay. Because the next drawing video will always be there on Seesaw for you, right? So you can always go in the art folder and you can find the video, the link to the video to do the project. So if you get it done in 2 classes, great. If you don't, not a big deal. But make sure you send me them because I definitely want to see them. Okay, guys? I will see you later. Miss you. Bye.